What's up, guys? Rage Quitting here, back with another video for you guys. This time we are doing a coaching session with Citizen Snip. He showed me a video and he wants me to help him with his overall gameplay, so that's what we're gonna do. Please, let's keep the comments respectful. Don't be, disrespecting anybody in here. This guy wanted me to help him, so we are all here to help. Okay, so anyway, let's just get right into the video here. I'm already on like my third hour of trying to do this. Like the first couple of videos, the recordings were bugged or I forgot to record, so I was just like talking to myself for like half an hour. And then the other one that I did, I analyzed a lot of things, but that video ended up being like 30 plus minutes. This is only an 11-minute gameplay, so I'm gonna try and do it like in real time as best that I can, so that it's not a super extensive video, but here we go. So immediate push on the assassin, which is really good. The only thing that I remember from this fight is when he throws up his deflection, which is right here. You want to prioritize force damage abilities, because what he did here was that vicious throw didn't hit at all. That saber throw did hit, but yeah, he's using force damage here, which is better. And then I think he gets stunned right here, but I don't think it was necessary to use the CC breaker, because you guys were there 3v1. I don't think that guy would have been able to kill you from the HP that you had, so that's just a judgment call right there. And then I'm gonna skip ahead. I'm gonna turn the volume down a little bit so I'm not like yelling into the microphone here. So the thing that I noticed the most is like some dead globals here and there, because the biggest thing that he does well is when he has Enrage up, and because of the talent, when you use your Enrage, your rage spending damage abilities don't go on cooldown. Whenever that's available, he's doing really big damage, just like Furious Strikes, Raging Burst and stuff like that. But the biggest thing that is missing here is whenever Enrage is not available, there's all these awkward dead globals, because he's not really quite sure of what to do in that moment. But in this case, like whenever Enrage is available, he knows exactly what he wants to do. But it's whenever Enrage is not available, and now you have to actually do like an actual rotation, is where we start to see some problems, and you'll notice it here throughout the video. And I'll mention it. The other big thing that I noticed was sometimes not really paying attention close enough to the surroundings or to your own HP, then dying for free basically, because you're not using your defensive cooldowns. And then the other thing here is attacking this guy too often. Starstruck. This guy is a tank. You can tell by his buffs. You can tell by his defensive cooldown that he just turned on. And you can also tell whenever you're attacking into a tank, if they are using an absorb shield in the offhand, every time they get attacked, they're absorbing some damage. So it's pretty easy to tell who's a tank when you're attacking it. But I think he attacks the tank a little bit too often. And then here, let me just back up real quick. Like I said, I'm going to try and do this in real time, right? But here So 90% of the time when healers, Sork healers and Sage healers, they're going to take that talent that lets their shield explode in an AoE around them, which will then CC people around them whenever this shield that we're looking at breaks upon damage. So he walks into melee range of this guy and force chokes him. That choke breaks the shield and he ends up getting CC'd right there. And then he chose to CC break it in order to continue to deal damage here. So whenever you're playing as a melee and you're going to attack a Sork healer or Sage healer, you want to make sure that you're breaking that bubble from range so that they don't stun you with it, and then continue after that, okay? The next thing that happens here is he ends up... Here, you'll see it here in a second. So he gets away, right? He starts fighting these guys, and then he chooses to intercede his friend. Right here in a second, you'll see it. He's going to target his friendly teammate on the operations frame. You can tell that he's targeting it right now. And then from right now, all the way till right Now he finally decided to switch back to an enemy target. So that whole time he's not doing any damage. The only damage that he did was a smash because, you know, it's AoE. But from here, he targets a friendly, he intercedes. He forgets to tab back to an enemy player. So now there's, you know, all this time right here that he wasn't doing anything. So switch back to enemy targets sooner. And then here he's hitting the tank again, Starstruck, which is like the worst target in the whole game to be attacking. He could attack anybody else and would be doing much more damage. The other common theme here throughout this game is that he's not taking advantage of the empowered Raging Bursts. That was one. So watch this Raging Burst, right? He already used the Force Crush, and then he uses Obliterate because that's the two-part that you need to do to empower your next Raging Burst. If you do a Obliterate or if you do a Leap, it'll make that Raging Burst or Smash an auto crit. But before you let that go, you want to make sure you use a Force Crush or an Enrage to make it do 15% more damage on top of the auto crit. So take note at how much damage this Raging Burst is. Boom, 49k, right? Those are the kinds of Raging Bursts that you want to see as often as possible. Every single time Obliterate and Force Crush are ready to go, these are the kinds of Raging Bursts that you want to see. But common theme throughout the rest of this gameplay is that a lot of the times he'll just throw the Raging Burst without setting it up, and it doesn't do nearly as much damage as it should do. And then here is just a situational awareness thing. You can kind of tell that he's outnumbered here. He does notice it a little bit too late, though, and then tries to run away, like right now. It's like a 2v6 over here. But had he, you know, paid attention a little bit sooner, maybe you would have been able to escape back into mid without dying there. But that's just a awareness thing. And then here, this is very, very nitpicky, but that's what we're here to do, right? Coming off of spawn here, I would have immediately leapt over to this guy, like right now. Leap, 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 right? So that you can jump, you can get into the mid. So that's like another solid like 10 seconds of, you know, inactivity there. But that's very nitpicky. This next one right here, you kind of have a feeling it's coming right there, that push. You know, take note of all the classes that are around, right? They have 2 Sorks, 1 Assassin, and a Jug right here. 4 of those classes can all push. I kind of saw this coming as I was watching it the first time. The healer runs behind him and then turns around, pushes him out the door, you know. So that's just a positioning thing, and, you know, being aware of what the other classes can do, you know, in the situation. Like, you kind of knew you were going to get pushed out the door, right? So anyway, this one here, he goes up to challenge the node 1v1. He gets really close to being able to get this kill, but isn't able to pull it off. It ends up being a 2v1 at first, and then the rest of the team, the enemy team, shows up to reinforce, and then he dies. But he was very close to being able to get this kill. I think he would have been able to do it had he just used his stun. This whole time, doing good damage, having good uptime on here, but right here, like right before this happens, right? Like right here, the guy is so low, man. I would have just tried to use a choke right here and tried to finish that kill. He ends up getting rooted, and then, but, you know, the Sork ended up having a, you know, he had bubble available anyway, but you never know if he has it or not. But there was a small window of opportunity to try and secure this kill, had he just used a stun, and he would have gotten like really close. So use your crowd control, right? I don't think he uses his stun enough. And then right here is like kind of awkward, dead globals, not really sure what to do. Maybe a little bit of panic, but, you know, there's nothing you can do, you know, 5v1 anyway, so. Alright, moving ahead here. Another common theme that I see a lot in the gameplay is using filler skills too much. Filler skills being Saber Throw, Force Scream, and Sundering Strike. Okay, in this situation, that was a very good reflect. Here, when he decides to run away, I would have used the line of sight here on either side of the entrance to stop taking damage. Also, he had Saber Ward available this whole time, and he still had his push, and he still had his stun. So let's rewind a little bit, right? So he decides to fight outside, right? Which is fine, because you have cooldowns to stay alive, right? Like he's using Reflect right now, which is fine, right? I would have turned Saber Ward on at this time right here too. And then he decides to retreat to mid. But once you retreat to mid like this, right? You have to think what else is going to help keep you alive, right? He does have a healer here, but he's very low. He's staying in this, you know, threshold where people are hitting him for free from outside. So one, I would have used the line of sight on either side of these pillars to stop that ranged damage from coming in. Two, use Saber Ward. And three, there's still two melee attacking him, right? The Sentinel and the Marauder are attacking him. You know, use your push to push one away. Use your stun maybe to stop incoming damage from that Marauder. And then maybe you would have had enough time for your healer to then keep you alive, right? Use the line of sight. Use your defensive cooldowns. Use your crowd control. Skipping ahead. Nothing's happening here. Going back to mid. Okay, so here we tab back onto the enemy Jug tank. Worst target in the whole game. Any other target would be better than this guy. And then here, this low guy, he switched to the low guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds of no activity because he had right here. This is when he switches to the low guy. He has 1 rage. This is the one thing that I don't like about that talent, that enrage talent, that makes it so that you can just like spam your abilities, you know, brain dead abilities without needing to learn a rotation, is because in situations like this where you don't have enrage available, and you don't have all your heavy hitting abilities available to just hit, now there's this like awkward time where you're not really sure of what your rotation is now because it's no longer easy peasy, right? Enrage, Furious Strike, right? But outside of that, now you have to actually learn another rotation or what you can do, you know, when you don't have that available. So right now it's a little bit awkward. Like he has 3 abilities that he can use to finish this kill. This guy only has 30k HP left. He has, you know, push, Saber Throw, choke, Force Scream, Ravage, but just because of the situation and whatever was happening in his mind at the time, and let's be respectful again, okay? But, you know, 1 global, this guy's dead, right? Or maybe 2 globals, this guy's dead, but this is a lot of time of inactivity right here. And he, you know, right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then he dies to somebody else. So just being a little bit quicker on those globals, you know, look down, what can you do, and then do it, right? But another common theme here that I was trying to get to is the use of Sundering Strike. He uses Sundering Strike too often. Oh, here, this is another awkward dead global time. Like, right? So when you're PvPing, you kind of want to think ahead. Maybe 3 or 4 globals ahead of what the current situation is, right? So whenever you're jumping into a fight, you should kind of already have an idea of what your next 3 to 5 globals are going to be. Like, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to do this, right? Instead of doing it, you know, kind of like one at a time. So try to always think ahead of your globals so that you don't have those awkward dead globals there. And then here, let me just rewind it a little bit. What I like to do when I'm going to do AoE, if I'm going to smash or if I'm going to spam like sweeping slashes or something like that, I like to take my camera and turn it to like a bird's eye view so that I can see, you know, from the top down. And it's easier for me to place my character in a position that will allow me to get the most damage out from my AoE skills, because then you can kind of see exactly where your position needs to be and where the enemy team is a little bit easier from a different camera view, from like that bird's eye top down. So here he does like 2 smashes running around in a circle. I think only that second one hit 2 players. The other ones, you know, didn't hit as many as he probably would have liked. And then here he wasn't paying attention to the force barrier. When he comes out of the stun here, the sword goes into a barrier right now, and then 1 Fury Strike, 2 Fury Strikes, and then obliterate all into the barrier, and it doesn't do anything. Oh, and then here he's not paying attention to his HP. So he gets very, very low, and then tries to turn on Enraged Defense right now when he's at 14,000 HP. So how Enraged Defense works, right? Whenever you get hit, it gives you health back, right? But the hit registers first before the health comes back. So right now he's at 14,000 HP. If he gets hit with an ability that deals 15,000 HP, he's going to get hit first and then die and then not get any heals back. So the safer thing to do here, if you look at what he has available, Endure Pain Med Pack would have been the better choice here to immediately give you some HP back first. And then you have a better threshold of HP to then use Enraged Defense later. Or you can pair your Enraged Defense with Saber Reflect, and then you might have been able to live there. But once you're very, very low like this, do not, you know, it's going to be a waste to use Enraged Defense unless you're getting hit by like very, very little hits, like dots or something like that. But, you know, so he gets hit here. He turns it on, gets hit, and then dies. So just be aware of that. Watch your HP a little bit more, so that you can use your cooldowns more effectively and a little bit sooner. So here towards the end here, so right now Enrage is available. He jumps in. He knows exactly what he's going to do. You know, bam, bam, bam. Which is really good. The only awkward times is when Enrage is not available, and now he's having to think about the rotation, and it's kind of slow for the rotation, a little bit awkward. And then the reoccurring theme here is not using. Sometimes he uses in Raging Burst without setting it up with the big burst. And then the other common theme here is using your secondary abilities to, you know, when you don't need to. So for example, right here, he already had pretty much a full rage bar, and is in melee range of this guy, right? Fury Strike is coming off cooldown soon. But okay, so anyway, what I would like to see is more use of your primary abilities, which is Force Crush, which he does very well. He uses Force Crush pretty much on cooldown, but he's not taking advantage of what Force Crush actually does, which is empower your next Raging Burst. And then also not using Obliterate enough to make that Raging Burst an auto crit. And using the secondary abilities too much. So he's at full rage right now. Let's see what he does here, right? Saber Throw generates rage. You don't need it because he's already at full rage. Next global. Force Scream generates rage. Doesn't need to use it because he's already at full rage. Next global. Here. Force Crush. Good. What's the next one? Sundering Strike. Not good, right? Every time I see him do a Force Crush in this video, I'm expecting to see Obliterate, Raging Burst, because that's how you deal your big damage, right? Sundering Strike just hit this guy for 11k. Force Crush by itself doesn't do much of anything. It's a very weak ability, but it empowers your next Raging Burst, which is why it's good to use it a lot, because you need to use it a lot to empower your next Raging Burst. But he's forgetting to connect the Force Crush and Obliterate to make that next Raging Burst very, very big. Okay, so too much usage of secondary abilities that don't need to be used as much. Saber Throw, Force Scream, and Sundering Strike only need to be used if you don't have enough rage to do your big hitting abilities. That's it. Other than that, It's Force Crush, Obliterate, Fury Strike, Raging Burst all the time. And then Ravage. He uses Ravage here as well when it's Ravage is a free, no-cost skill, but he has a full rage bar. Spend that rage. Use all the abilities that spend the rage. This guy, he started the encounter with this guy when this guy was at half HP. This guy would have been dead, man, if you just used all the big hitting stuff, right? Like 15k Force Scream, 11k Sundering Strike, like a 9k Force Crush. Like all those abilities don't do shit. Those abilities are only useful to build rage. Otherwise, use all your heavy hitting abilities that would have deleted this guy. Right? So that's a common theme throughout the video, but when I was recording it earlier and I was pointing that out, like the video ended up being like 35 minutes long, and I didn't want to do that to you guys, right? And so this one was a little bit faster. I tried to commentate over it, as it was happening. But the big takeaways from this one is target selection. So he was targeting that Jug tank too much. Any other target would have been better. The second thing is those awkward dead globals when you're not really sure what to do. So try to think ahead with your globals. When you're fighting, try to think ahead, 2 or 3 globals ahead, so you kind of know what you're going to be doing next. And then third, he has very good uptime, right? He was pretty much in combat the whole time, but it's just the rotation that's holding him back. So if you see at the end of this video here, like the top guy did 11k, the next guy did 9, and then he did 6.8. But for the amount of uptime that he had, he definitely should have been doing more damage than this. So, and the reason is because he was throwing out Raging Burst too often without setting it up with big damage with Force Crush and Obliterate, or another Leap, right? Because Leap and Obliterate make Raging Burst an auto crit. He uses Force Crush a lot, which is really good, but he wasn't using it with Obliterate to get that next Raging Burst out for really big damage. Also, using secondary abilities too often. Sundering Strike, Saber Throw, Force Scream, those abilities don't need to be used unless you need the rage to use big hitting abilities, okay? So use all your main abilities first. Force Crush, Obliterate, Raging Burst, Fury Strike. And then if you don't have enough rage to do any of those abilities, then use, Sunder, Saber Throw, stuff like that, okay? But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you did. And I'll see you guys on another one. I hope this helps. Peace.